was always the quiet one in the family, the dutiful daughter, the one who never asked for more than what was given. My parents weren't wealthy when I was a child, but they lived comfortably. My brother Daniel was the golden child, the son who could do no wrong, while I, Emily, was often told to be grateful for whatever scraps of affection came my way. Still, despite the favoritism, I loved my parents. I loved them fiercely. I wanted their approval, their care, and their support. And for a while, I thought I had it, at least when my own daughter, Lily, was born. Lily was everything to me. She was bright, full of energy, with a laugh that lit up the darkest of days. But when she turned 3, her health began to falter. What started as minor issues spiraled into something serious, something that needed urgent medical treatment. It was then my parents had promised me something that brought me hope. "Don't worry," my father had said one evening, patting my hand in what seemed like a rare moment of warmth. "You will set aside $75,000 for Lily, for her treatment, for her future. Whatever she needs, it will be there." I remember crying that night, not from sadness, but relief. It felt like finally my parents were treating me as though I mattered. They weren't just looking at me as the responsible daughter who would manage on her own. They were stepping up for my child, their granddaughter. I planned everything around that promise. Told Lily's doctors that we would have the funds ready. I built hope on the foundation of those words. For once in my life, I let myself believe in my parents' love. The phone call that shattered me came months later. So excited. My mother's voice was brimming with joy. "Daniel's getting married. We're going to make it the wedding of the century." At first, I smiled. I congratulated them. Daniel was their pride, and I had no resentment about his happiness. But as the weeks passed, the updates kept coming. The extravagant venue, the imported flowers, the designer dress for his bride, the luxury cars, and the guest list that looked like a red carpet event. It was only when I saw the numbers that my world collapsed. $280,000. That was the amount they had spent on Daniel's wedding. When I asked about Lily's fund, about the $75,000 they had promised, they looked at me like I was insane. "Emily," my mother said sharply, "your brother's wedding is about family honor. Do you expect us to cut corners and embarrass ourselves in front of hundreds of guests just so you can take money for doctors?" Her words were a knife. "For my daughter's life," I whispered, my throat burning. "You should be more grateful." My father added coldly, "We've already given Daniel so much, and this wedding reflects our family's status. Your daughter is your responsibility, Emily. We can't prioritize her over the family name." The betrayal crushed me. The very people who had promised to protect Lily, who had claimed they loved her, had chosen chandeliers and champagne towers over her chance at a healthy life. I left their house that night with tears streaming down my face, my little girl's picture clutched in my hand. My parents had made it clear I was expendable and my daughter was invisible. Grief is heavy, but betrayal burns. I spent nights crying silently, careful not to let Lily see my pain. She was too young to understand why her grandparents suddenly stopped visiting, why I always seemed tired and drained. But inside me, something had begun to shift. If they could abandon me, then I could no longer waste my life begging for their affection. If they could throw away their granddaughter's future, then I would carve out one myself, with or without them. I took on extra jobs. I worked days, nights, weekends. I built a small online business from scratch, baking custom cakes at first, then expanding into a catering service. It was exhausting, humiliating at times, but every dollar I saved felt like a brick in the fortress I was building around my daughter. Slowly, things began to change. My little business grew. Clients referred me to others. My hands were raw. My body was tired. But my spirit was on fire. I poured all my energy into Lily. She got the treatments she needed. She began to recover, her little cheeks pink again, her laughter returning. And as she grew, I made sure she never felt the absence of love from my parents. She had mine, and that was enough. But I never forgot, not the coldness in my father's voice, not the disdain in my mother's eyes, not the way they had chosen to parade their wealth while my daughter's life hung in the balance. So I waited. I worked. I built. And deep in my heart, I knew the day would come when tables would turn. Years passed. My catering business turned into a thriving company, one of the most respected in the city. I bought a home. sent Lily to the best schools, and watched her blossom into a confident, brilliant young woman. Meanwhile, Daniel's a fairy tale marriage began to crack. His wife, spoiled by the luxury she had married into, left him within 5 years, taking half of what he owned. His business ventures failed, each one a disaster. The golden boy was no longer golden, and my parents? Their fortune drained. The lavish wedding had been just the beginning of reckless spending. They had mortgaged properties, taken loans, and now, in their old age, they were left with little more than regret. It was almost poetic. The day of Lily's graduation came. She was the valedictorian, her speech powerful and full of hope. I stood there, tears streaming down my face, knowing every struggle had been worth it. When the ceremony ended, I felt eyes on me. I turned, and there they were, my parents, old, frail, and broken. Emily, my mother's voice trembled. We need your help. We have nothing left. Daniel, he can't support us. Please. I looked at them, really looked. These were the same people who had once told me my child's life wasn't as important as a wedding, who had called me ungrateful when all I had begged for was a chance for my daughter to live. You had $75,000 that could have saved Lily years of pain, I said quietly. But you chose chandeliers instead. You chose champagne. You chose pride. Now you want me to save you? Wanda, now you want me to save you? My father opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I did save someone, I said, my eyes on Lily as she laughed with her friends. I saved her, and that's all that matters. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving them standing in the crowd, swallowed by the silence of their own choices. That was my revenge. Not shouting, not anger, not vengeance in its ugliest form, but showing them in the most undeniable way that the daughter they dismissed had built a life far brighter, far stronger, and far happier than anything they had ever imagined, and that the granddaughter they had abandoned? She had become their living reminder of what they had lost.